Hey, it's Melissa. I am the publisher and writer at Wanging Dude Publishing. So glad that you are here. So now that the book has been written and edited and is being formatted, now it's time to market the book. So it doesn't matter how brilliant your product is, if nobody knows it's there, then there's no way you're going to sell it. Now, I know you've heard that over and over again, but that's something I have to remind myself now. Now, I did morning radio for a long time, and I was just, focused on doing the product. I was only focused on being on the radio and doing my part in storytelling. But when it came to the actual promotion and selling of the station, its identity and its branding, I had nothing to do with that. So this is new territory for me because I'm not naturally a salesperson. I've built my, career off of just having conversations with people and purposely not trying to sell anything. That was always my struggle. When it came to, I guess concert tickets and stuff like that, that was easy because we gave a lot of things away for free. So people want free things. That was not hard to sell. But I got to be honest, sometimes for me, it's very hard for me to what I think is turning a switch off, which is the creative side, and going to the sales side. It's always been a challenge for me. So I wanted to share some books that I got to try to help me with this. Now, this is an ongoing process. We'll see how well it does, how well the book sells. But here are some books that I thought about. And I know that I'm not really good at showing books on the screen with the blurred background. So I'm just going to tell you and put an image of each one up. The first one is called Fanocracy. Fanocracy. Okay. Instead of like democracy, it's about being fans, getting a fan base, fanocracy. And what I liked about this book is just remind you that you are building a fan base. There are ways you can go from, again, being a salesperson and getting a product out there to actually building a relationship with the clients that you're trying to serve. And if they become a fan of you, as you are, of authors, of musicians, of television personalities, movie stars, business owners, like normally, if you're a fan of them, then when they do something else, something new apart from what you were introduced to them from, right? So there's plenty of actors that I love who from their first role, and then I followed them throughout whatever movies or TV. I'll give them a chance. I like them so much. I'll give their new shows a chance. And they know that. That's why you see the same people over and over again, is because they know, hey, they bring people to the table. They got a lot of fans. Same with business. And when you're writing, if you're doing this on your own, you're a business. And that's why I created Wanging Dude Publishing, to remind myself this is a business and I've got to treat it like a business. So again, I've been fortunate enough to have a fan base through radio, but now it's time for me to build a fan base through my writings. Can I do it? Well, I'm going to try. And Fanocracy is one of the books that I use to try to come up with ideas. I remember my mother, Millie Pete, she was an artist, and she would subscribe to magazines that were very visual. And I'm trying to think of a few. I mean, it could have been National Geographic. And then over here, she was, some museum magazine. And then over here, it was like a Southern, I can't think of it, not Garden and Gun, because that's the first thing that came to mind because it wasn't around back then. But like some of the older Southern, like Southern Living, yes, most women would get that, and men too, for recipes and that kind of thing. But she would purposely try to find magazines that had images in them so that when she had downtime or wanted to try something different, she would simply replicate them in painting. So she had stacks of magazines all over the place, and she was not a reader. She was probably the one that read the least in our family. She wanted more visual things, visual stimulation. And so the reason I'm bringing up these books is because it's not like you have to read the whole book and it's like a Bible that you have to make notes and make sure that you understand every bit of it. What I tend to do is the same thing she did, which I'll get the whole book, but maybe there's just one chapter that sparks an idea for me to try. For her, she'd go through the page. Hey, there was one image that she loved that she would replicate and she would paint. Another book that I picked up that I heard from one of my clients. So I freelance and I work with clients in the financial industry. And one of the books that they talked about was Good to Great by Jim Collins. Now, this is a book that is a bestseller. Apparently, a lot of business people have gotten this book. But basically, it gives analyses of different companies and why this one company was better or more or survived longer than this company. One in particular I'm thinking about is, a drugstore, Walgreens. And there was other drugstores that were around for a while that disappeared because of the dominance of Walgreens and their philosophies. So it's really interesting to me to see, okay, well, what made, they did the same thing, both drugstores. And again, Walgreens does not sponsor this. It was something in the book, but they're both drugstores. They probably look just the same when you walked in the door, but what's the difference? And that's the thing. If you want to make whatever you're doing successful, yes, there's competition. And sometimes I think people can get overwhelmed or bogged down if you're not a business person traditionally. If you didn't go to business school, you didn't study economics, if you're not somebody who's a salesperson. For a creative person, this is really difficult and can be really intimidating. And that's why I want to share all of these things with you, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing my best to try to get something I'm very proud of out to the public. Again, this is the bridge from the years' work I put into this book, and now I'm trying to get it into the hands of other people so that they can enjoy it, be educated, or at least try it out. So I would love for them to do that. And one final book, and this is only because it's election season. Oh, it's politics, and politics hasn't been very pretty lately. I guess it never has been, but it just seems, I don't know, it seems like the past few years, it's just been ugly. However, there are some things that you can learn, I think, and let's get away from the federal. Let's look at local elections. I think there's something you can learn in seeing someone who's running for a local election. Okay. Somebody who's running for a small office, but they're trying to get the word out in the community. Hey, I'm here and I would love for you to vote for me. My idea is, hey, okay, maybe I can take a hint from some of these politicians on how to say, hey, look, you may not know me as a writer, but I have a new book out, or will have a new book out in the spring of 25. And I need you to either pre-order it when we release the pre-orders, or order the book, because I would love for you to check it out. And how do I get people to do that? How do these people get people to vote for them? So I actually picked up this book out of the library. John Dickerson, of course, he hosts Face the Nation, and he has a book called Whistle Stop. Now, he is part of a family who has been part of politics for a long time, and journalism. And, so he's a seasoned professional growing up with his mother as well as him. Whistle Stop is his book, and it's basically his favorite stories from the campaign trail. So this spans all kinds of elections, not just the one that we're sitting in. This spans all kinds of elections, and it gives stories on unique ways that either a campaign worked or a campaign didn't work. Because I can tell you, one of the things, and I've probably said this before in a video, that a lot of times if I'm coming up with ideas, sometimes watching someone else's bad ideas is what gives me a good idea, right? You can learn from somebody else's mistakes. It's not shaming anybody, right? You don't even have to learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from other people's mistakes. And that's why I think history, I've said this before too, is so important. That subject is so important, because if somebody else has already done it, why repeat it, right? Why try to reinvent the wheel? So, however, when you do marketing, you sometimes have to reinvent the wheel, right? To come up with something unique. So it's a journey. It's an experiment. Like I said, that's why I'm sharing it with you. I'm not trying to teach you necessarily. What I'm trying to do is share with you. And if you have any feedback, you can put it into the comments below, because if you've done something in whatever arena it is, whether it's writing, creative, sales, I mean, if you are somebody who went to business school, everybody would benefit from your feedback in the comments on maybe some ideas to think about. What, if we're talking about writing a book and publishing a book and doing it on your own, what advice would you give me on, hey, this is a great way I learned about a book that had never been done before, or this is something that is a classic way for me to learn about a book and I want to keep reading them based on this certain strategy that somebody does. So I would love to hear all that. And also below in the description, you can find links to help support the channel. And I have something free for you. And I love you being here and being part of the conversation. We would love for you to subscribe as well. So thank you for being here. Hopefully it's doing you some good. And I hope to see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.